Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatasya Vayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtake. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 1, the Spiritual Masters, text 36 onwards. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatt Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatt Das Raghunath. My instructing spiritual masters are Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatana Goswami, Shri Bhatt Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopala Swami, Shri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Ichai Guru Shiksha Guru Yai Amar Tan Sabar Pad Padme Koti Namaskar. These six are my instructing spiritual masters, and therefore I offer millions of respectful obeisances unto their lotus feet. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was disciple of Nityananda Prabhu, but these are all his spiritual, instructing spiritual Shiksha Gurus. So he is offering respectful obeisances unto their lotus feet. By accepting the six Goswamis as his instructing spiritual masters, the author specifically makes it clear that one should not be recognized as a Gaudiya Vaishnava if he is not obedient to them, obedient to the six Goswamis.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mata. Bhagwanera Bhaktayat Shri Vasapatam Tasabar Padme Sahasra Pranam. There are innumerable devotees of the Lord, of whom Shivas Thakur is the foremost. I offer my respectful obeisances thousands of times unto the lotus feet. So unto all the innumerable devotees, he is praying to the offering obeisances before starting this work of writing Chaitanya Charitamrita. Advaita Acharya Prabhu Ranshavata Tara Padam Padme Koti Pranatiyama. Advaita Acharya is the Lord's partial incarnation, and therefore I offer my obeisances millions of times at his lotus feet. Nityananda Rai Prabhu Swarupa Prakash Tara Padma Padma Vando Vyaramida. Srila Nityananda Ram is a plenary manifestation of the Lord, and I have been initiated by him. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Gadadhar Panditadi Prabhur Nija Shakti Tasavar Charne Mor Sahasra Pranati. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the internal potencies of the Lord, of whom Shri Gadadhar Prabhu is the foremost. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Swayam Bhagavan Tahara Padara Vinde Ananta Pranam. Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the personality of Godhead himself, and therefore I offer innumerable prostrations at his lotus feet. Savarne Prabhu Re Kariya Namaskar Eichai Tehu Yache Kariye Vichar. Having offered obeisances unto the Lord and all his associates, I shall not try to explain these six diversities in one. So these six diversities, as it was mentioned earlier, so we'll see later. There are many unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of whom are considered associates surrounding the Lord. Krishna should be worshipped with his devotees. The diverse principles are therefore the eternal paraphernalia through which the absolute truth can be approached. Yadyapi amar guru chaitanya das tathapi janiye ami tahara prakash. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Shri Chaitanya, I know him also as a plenary manifestation of the Lord. Because his spiritual master is Nityananda Prabhu himself. Every living entity is essentially a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the spiritual master is also his servant, or Krishna's servant. Still, the spiritual master is a direct manifestation of the Lord. With this conviction, a disciple can advance in Krishna consciousness. The spiritual master is not different from Krishna because he is a manifestation of Krishna. Lord Nityananda, who is Balram himself, the first direct manifestation or expansion of Krishna, is the original spiritual master. He helps Lord Krishna in his pastimes and is a servant of the Lord. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore, the spiritual master cannot be other than a servant of Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. A spiritual master never poses as a Supreme Lord himself. He is considered a representative of the Lord. The revealed scriptures prohibit one's pretending to be God, but a bona fide spiritual master is a most faithful and confidential servant of the Lord, and therefore deserves as much respect as Krishna. So Prabhupada has explained other place also, like if there is an ambassador of a country, suppose ambassador of US in India, so that ambassador is given as much respect as the president of USA, because he's representing USA. He's not the president of USA, but he's given as much respect. So similarly, Prabhupada explained, the spiritual master is representative of the Lord, so he should be given as much respect as the Supreme Lord, although he never poses as the Supreme Lord himself. So he never says, I'm God. And of course, Prabhupada, in his words, he says, if spiritual master says he's God, then he's as good as dark. So that way we have to be very careful. Who do we go for initiation? Who do we approach? Is he really engaging us in the service of the Lord? As Prabhupada says, the spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. And he never poses as the Supreme Lord himself. So we had studied earlier also many qualities of spiritual master and a disciple. So furthermore qualities Prabhupada is explaining. Guru Krishna Rupa Haya Shastre Pramani Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karena Bhaktagani. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. The relationship of a disciple with the spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. A spiritual master always represents himself as the humblest servitor of the personality of Godhead. But the disciple must look upon him as the manifested representation of Godhead. So Prabhupada also said spiritual master is Sevak Bhagwan, and Krishna is Sevya Bhagwan. So spiritual master is not God. He is a representative, manifested representative of God. So this is how the disciples should look upon the spiritual master. Of course, at one time when Prabhupada was here in 1970s, his disciples started to proclaim. Not all, some of his disciples. They started to proclaim that Srila Prabhupada is Krishna himself. Krishna has come as Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada chastised them very heavily, very, very heavily. And there was one group of disciples who was doing that. And Prabhupada broke that group, sent all of them away to different parts of the world. He said, why you are poisoning the society with this kind of concept? Where did I say I'm Krishna? I'm God. And actually Prabhupada's main concern was, after his departure, then these disciples will start claiming them to be God, and then they will start further disciples to serve them as if they are God. Prabhupada is clearly explaining here again and again. A spiritual master always represents himself as the humblest servitor of the personality of Godhead. He's not God, he's a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's a servant of Krishna. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes this verse from 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Acharyam mam vijani na manyat karichit na marte buddhya suyeta sarva deva mayo guru. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is a representative of all the demigods. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by Lord Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of the society. The Lord was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of his spiritual master. The spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parents, a child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of the spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental service. The spiritual master is also called Acharya, or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. The Manu Sahita explains the duties of an Acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts charge of disciples, teaches them the Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, and gives them their second birth. The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into the study of spiritual science is called Upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. So Upa means nearer, and Niti means to bring him closer. One who cannot be brought nearer to a spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and he is thus indicated to be a Shudra. The sacred thread on the body of a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It's worth nothing if worn merely to boast of high parentage. Somebody wears it just to show off that from high parentage, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, it's not worth it. It has different meaning. It's a sign of initiation. And initiation means when we start on the process of spiritual path. The duty of the spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with a sacred thread ceremony. And after this sanskara, purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about the Vedas. A person born a Shudra is not barred from such spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master, who is duly authorized to award a disciple the right to be a Brahman if he finds him perfectly qualified. So that's where the thing is, that Shudra, a person born a Shudra or born in a Shudra family, it's not that he's Shudra. He can be a Brahman, depends on if spiritual master finds Brahminical qualities in him. Just like there is a story, and Prabhupada used to say, that one boy, he went to Gurukul, and the teacher asked him, Acharya asked him, who's your father? Means, are you Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, which family you come from? Then that student said, well, I have to go and ask my mother. I don't have a father. So Guruji said, okay. So next day he went to his mother, and actually his mother was a prostitute. And she said, she told him the truth that I don't know who's your father. I have slept with so many men. I don't know. So next day, that same boy, he went back to Gurukul. And Guruji asked him, so did you find out who's your father? Student said, I don't know, because my mother is a prostitute. And he said in front of the class, my mother is a prostitute and she doesn't know who's my father, because she slept with so many men. And being a bona fide guru, he said, you are a Brahman. Only a Brahman can have this much strength to speak the truth. So you're a Brahman, I'll train you like a Brahman. So anybody can be born anywhere. It depends how he is cultivated afterwards. In the Vayu Puran, an Acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all Vedic literatures, abides by their rules and regulations, and teaches his disciples to act in the same way. Only out of his immense compassion does the personality of Godhead reveal himself as a spiritual master. Therefore, in the dealing of an Acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is the supreme personality of Sarvaita Godhead, Sevak Bhagwan. It's worthwhile to take shelter of such a stately devotee who's called Ashraya Vigraha, or manifestation or form of the Lord, of whom one must take shelter. Further, Prabhupada has given long purport on this. If one poses himself as an Acharya but does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender, and this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an Acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Because he's always engaged in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. Such a spiritual master is known as Acharya Deva. Influenced by an envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification, mundaners criticize a real Acharya. In fact, however, a bona fide Acharya is not different from the personality of Godhead. And therefore, to envy such an Acharya is to envy the personality of Godhead himself. This will produce an effect subversive to transcendental realization. So one should not be envious of a bona fide Acharya. As Prabhupada said, those envious people, they try to bring him down, but it will only produce an effect subversive to transcendental realization. As mentioned previously, a disciple should always respect the spiritual master as a manifestation of Shri Krishna. But at the same time, one should always remember that a spiritual master is never authorized to imitate the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. He's never authorized to imitate them. So we never have any example of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, any of the 6 Goswamis or other acharyas imitating pastimes of Krishna. False spiritual masters pose themselves as identical with Krishna in every respect to exploit the sentiments of their disciples. But such impulseless can only mislead their disciples, for their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord. This is against the principles of the devotional cult. So their ultimate aim is to become one with the Lord, so they just want to exploit the sentiments of the disciples. And that's completely nonsense. And that's what many so-called gurus are doing. The real Vedic philosophy is Achintya Veda Bhed Tattva, which establishes everything to be simultaneously one with and different from the personality of Godhead. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami confirms that this is the real position of a bona fide spiritual master. and says that one should always think of the spiritual master in terms of his intimate relationship with Mukunda, Shri Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha has clearly explained that the pure devotee's observation of the spiritual master and Lord Shiva as being one with the personality of Godhead exists in terms of their being very dear to the Lord, not identical with him in all respects. So generally on Guru Purnima, we hear this Guru Brahma, Guru Maheshwara, right? I don't remember the whole words. Guru Brahma, Guru something, Maheshwara. But it doesn't mean that Guru is Brahmaji, Guru is Shivaji. No, it only means they are very dear to Krishna. Guru is dear to Krishna, Brahmaji is dear to Krishna, Shivaji. So in that way they are all equal, yes. In fact, in that way, soul is also dear to Krishna, living entity. But because of our consciousness, we do crazy things. We are stuck here in the material world. But that doesn't mean the soul is not dear. But soul does not become Lord Shiva. Of course, nobody can become Lord Shiva. He is a unique personality. Following in the footsteps of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, later acharyas like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have confirmed the same truths in his prayers to the spiritual master. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms that all the revealed scriptures accept the spiritual master to be identical with the personality of Godhead because he's very dear and confidential servant of the Lord. Every morning we sing this, right? Sakshat dharitvena samasta shastra uktastatha. Samasta shastra, every scripture has spoken of this. Gaudiya Vaishnavas therefore worship Srila Gurudev, the spiritual master, in the light of his being the servitor of the personality of Godhead. In all the ancient literatures of devotion service and in the more recent songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. So even in Guru Ashtakam, we do sing Shri Radhika Madhavayorapara, and afterwards we do sing that somewhere just escaping my mind. Shri Radhika Madhava. After Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhyai. So that's the spiritual master. His position is that he is realizing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in the Nikunja, in the gardens of Vrindavan. So that's what here Acharya Prabhupada has written. The Acharya is saying the spiritual master is always considered either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Srila Nityananda Prabhu. So he could be from either of the groups. But that's his real position, because that's how he engages his followers, his disciples in the service of Krishna. Actually, I'm a little tired today, so I'll stop here. But Akrut Divya Prabhu asked me a question about Sambandha Videya Prayojan. So Sambandha is Sambandha, that's our relationship. So relationship with the Supreme Lord, the relationship of the Jiva with the Supreme Lord. So the Acharya of that relationship is Srila Sanatana Goswami. So he's called Sambandha Acharya. And the deity of that relationship is Madan Mohanji. So the idea is we understand our relationship with Krishna through Sanatana Goswami and through deity of Madan Mohanji. And then we work on that relationship. That work on relationship is devotional service. So once we understand, okay, I'm a servant of Krishna, fine. Now what? Devotional service to practically implement that understanding and to really realize that relationship. So that is called Abhideya. So Abhideya deity is Govindevji, Radha Govindevji, and the Acharya is Srila Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami has written plenty of literature on devotional service, especially Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So now the result of that devotional service in relationship with Krishna is what? Getting Krishna Prem. So that Prem is the Prayojan of devotional service. So Prayojan, the deity is Srila Radha Gopinath, and the Acharya is Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. So his works, his literatures are, they explain our relationship with the Lord, or the Prayojan, the Krishna Prem, the Krishna Prem. So these three aspects go in every scripture actually. Every scripture is based on Sambandha, either Sambandha, Avideya or Prayojan. Mostly the scriptures talk about Sambandha. We understand that until we understand, we're not going to work on it. Devotional service, very, very important, but Sambandha to understand that. That's why Sanatana Goswami is considered Sambandha Acharya. We understand that. Then we can make progress in devotional service. So these three aspects are always there in every scripture. Sambandha, Avideya, Prayojan. Or just like Prabhupada has also explained, we want some business profit. We want to make money. So we go to a businessman or a vendor. So we establish the relationship. And then we do some business transactions. That's Abhideya. And the Prayojan, or the result is what? Profit for both of us. So with Krishna, of course, the profit is more for us than for Krishna. Krishna doesn't need us, we need him. So the Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan, they go in every aspect of life, but more in devotion service. I hope that's clear. So I guess we'll stop here today. I'm sorry, I'm not very energetic today. So we'll take it up tomorrow. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, in Abhideya, you said the Acharya is?
Rupa Goswami.
And the deity is Govind.
Govind. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chalo, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.